Hi, welcome. Today we will talk about one of my favorite openings, the Scottish Gambit. So this is one of the most aggressive ways of start with white. And in the end of this video, I'm certain that you will be able to create damages to all kinds of players. So let's jump to our video. So, well, when we talk about the Scottish Gambit, first we need to know why. Why should we play a gambit, and what are the advantages of playing this gambit? Well, first, a gambit is an opening where we give up a pawn. So this starts with e4, knight f3, and after d4, here, this is the Scottish game. Normally, everyone takes. For this reason, we will see this on this video, and later on another videos we will see in detail several of these variants. So if we take the pawn, this would be named the Scottish game. We will be talking about bishop c4. And the idea is that, yes, you can take the pawn, but when you take the pawn, you will be losing a tempo. And instead of losing the tempo, you're going to play bishop c4. And here, okay, the most answered move is knight to f6. This will be the first variant we will see. Next, bishop c5, bishop e7, bishop b4, terrible in my opinion, and finally d6. So let's jump to our first variation. Well, the first variation that we will see is knight f6. You're seeing two columns with the percentages, and well, those columns, the first is the evaluation of the chess base, and the second one is the evaluation of the opening tree. So according to the results, what is the difference? Well, the first column is related to over the board chess games, and the second one is online games. So for this reason, we see different values on each variant. But important, most of the games that are on the databases are played with knight f6. So, well, after knight f6, normally we have several different ways of playing this, and later I will do a lot of content about the Scottish Gambit, but today I will defend my favorite line, the Perrault variation. So just to talk a little bit about the other variations, of course you can castle. And here you have, for example, the neck mason. We already talked about that here. If you want to see, you can always click on the video. You have another approach. For example, even on this variation, you can play rook e1, and after d5, again, just to show, you can sack the bishop and then play knight to c3. It's playable too, because the pawn cannot take, and yeah, this is playable. The computers like this, but in my opinion, this isn't aggressive. So yes, black can do a mistake, but it's not enough in my opinion. So if you want to attack, if you play a gambit, you want to be ambitious and you want to create problems. So for this reason, I will defend knight to g5. And this is named the Perrault variation. So this is a plan that remembers the Lolli or the Fagatello attack, because we are centering our attack on the f7 square. So let's see a common mistake. Normally, everyone will play that. Of course, we will see knight e5 too. It's the second most played variant against me, for example. And after d5, we will take. And here, the most common mistake is to take with the knight. And you won't believe, but this position is already won for white. And we want to sack the knight, but not yet. Because if knight takes on f7, exists queen e7 check, and you will lose the knight. So according to the computers, this is playable because you have queen e2, but you don't want to play that. You have much better to play here. So the idea is just to castle kingside, because now doesn't exist check. And I've already won, and yesterday I put here on the channel shorts with this variation, because I win every week one different master with bishop e7. I don't know how it's possible, but no one knows that. So after knight takes f7, this position is completely won for white. So we will destroy completely the black's player, because of course we are giving a fork and this king needs to take the knight. After that, we will continue with queen check, giving a double attack, because the bishop and the queen are attacking the knight too. So after that, normally they play g6 without thinking. And the thing is that bishop takes king g7, and after bishop to h6 will finish on a beautiful checkmate. So this is checkmate in 12 moves. And yes, this happens. This happens every week. I'm talking serious. So if you want to win quickly games, variation, you need to play that. But of course, we need to talk about the possible defenses. And the thing here is that, okay, after knight takes, castle, you're already won. But exists another variation that, in my opinion, is the most difficult to play for white. It's not inferior, in my opinion, but it's complicated. Because instead of taking the pawn on d5, black can play queen to e7. And this is complicated because of the fact you're being checked. You don't want to play king f1, in my opinion. The computers like this move, but in the games over the board and even on the internet, white loses almost every games. And I've seen games of 2500 and 2600 of rating, and they lose with white. So it isn't easy. For this reason, I will recommend bishop e2. And like the Italian game, this variation is a variation where you will defend a little bit, but you're not worst, in my opinion. So this can continue, of course, with knight taking the pawn. You will castle, and after h6, you will play knight to f3. Here, our goal is just one, to recover the pawn of the gambit. And yes, we don't have the initiative, but it's not a tragedy. We aren't losing. This is the problem of the Perrault variation. So, for example, here, probably black will continue with something like queen to f6 to defend the pawn, and we will continue with knight to d2. And the idea here is that we will always recover the pawn because of knight b3. One of the most aggressive ways of continuing this position for black is just to castle queenside. I don't know if most players will do that. No one has played that against me. No one has played queen e7, just to have an idea. Probably after this video will happen a little bit. I don't know. The channel is small, so I don't know. But, well, after knight takes, we can take with either of the knights. It looks complicated, but it's playable. So here, probably the best approach is just to play something like that, or even something like that. And we will play c3, and okay, this is a double-edged game, so the material is even. And of course, we will try to arrange a way of attacking on the queen side, advancing the pawns, developing the pieces, and this is a double-edged game. So, of course, the thing is that, according to my experience, normally everyone plays this. No one has played queen e7 against me, and I've already played this line most than 50 times or 60 times, I don't remember. Talking still about this Perrault variation, we have another common approach. Black can continue with this answer, d5, and after pawn takes, here we can continue with knight e5. Normally the FIDE masters, international masters, they like to play this variation, and in my opinion, this variation isn't so difficult for white as the last one, because we can take with the queen, and after knight takes bishop, queen takes, this can continue with queen taking. For example, FIDE master has played this against me, In my opinion, yes, the computers enjoy a lot this answer, but after knight c3, queen e2, I don't know, but it don't look easy for black to recover the knight. So for this reason, I think the most normal approach is just to take the pawn. And if you want to draw against a stronger opponent, yes, you can exchange the queens. But if you don't, you can play queen e2 because, yes, the queen cannot go here because the knight is attacking this square, and the knight is being protected too. So, oh, of course, and you're giving a check. For this reason, the queen cannot take the pawn. So, after normal moves like bishop e7, you can castle, and this will be a normal game. You will attack later the queen, and I think white doesn't have any problem here on this game. So, talking about knight f6, so I think this is quite easy to play for white. We just need to look to the f7 square. So let's jump to our next variation, bishop c5. Bishop c5 is one of the lines that I win with most violence. Because normally we have some beautiful sacrifices, but before that, of course, we need to talk a little bit about the subscriptions. So I don't know, but we have 87% of the viewers that isn't subscribed. I need your help because I want to continue producing chess content just for you. So yesterday we started doing shorts. I don't know if you enjoyed, you can always see on the channel. And to help me, it's free. You just need to subscribe. It's the red button on the inferior corner. And I think YouTube now has a different thing that sparks, I don't know, but it's different. And with your help, I will be able to continue doing what I'm doing right now, to produce chess content every day, and I will try to continue doing shorts too. So click subscribe, push notifications on, and if you enjoy the contents, you can always like. It will be a great help for the algorithm. So let's continue. So talking about our lines of bishop c5. Here I will defend the approach of the exo gambit. The exo gambit is an aggressive way of continuing this position. I like a lot because the idea is that after pawn takes, we can sack the bishop. And why is that good? Simple. This is kind of an idea that we have on the Evans Gambit. If you haven't seen the video, you can see it too here on the channel. So after king takes, the idea is that we can give a check and recover the piece. But with the advantage that this king cannot castle. And here we will trick our opponent 2 times because we've already tricked 1 time. And after king plays to e8, we don't need to take yet the bishop. We can play queen to h5, giving a new check. And the idea is that we want black to play g6 because after queen takes bishop, of course, pawn takes bishop takes is terrible. This would lead to a superior position for white. So for this reason, normally no one takes. Here, even d6, the idea will be to play always on the center. So we will play queen to e3 because we want to capture the pawn, and later we will castle and we want to force the advance of the pawn. And in my opinion, because of the fact that this king cannot castle, yes, okay, the material will be even, but in my opinion, it's very complicated for black to play this game. So talking about another alternatives, here black can continue to, instead of taking the pawn, can continue with knight f6. And here the game will be normal and we will need to play a positional approach. So we will advance the pawn, and after d5 is the only possible answer in my opinion. We will continue with bishop b5. The idea is simple. After knight e4, because of course the knight is being threatened by the pawn, we will continue with pawn takes, bishop check, and bishop d2. This is very theoretical. So later we will do a video about this variation, but for now I think it is more than sufficient. We will play on the queen side, and we will try to arrange a way of winning this pawn or even this square for our knight, one of the knights. So it's very positional, this game. So talking about the third variation that normally happens a lot, here after the advancing of the pawn, black can give up material. So black was winning by 1 point, and the idea is that when black advances the pawn to d3, and we take, for example, with the queen, our pieces won't have good coordination, so this will be boring for white. So for this reason, I will recommend a line. I think it isn't a common way of playing that, but I studied that a few months ago with the computers, and in my opinion, b4 is very interesting because we will play on the queen side and we will create threats on f7 again. Why is that? Normally, everyone will play bishop to b6. And after that, we will play a4. And what are we doing? We are trying to take the bishop because the bishop doesn't have any available square. So after a6, in my opinion, is the best way of answering that, because a5 looks ugly. No, it's playable, of course, but we will play b5, and I don't know where we'll go this night. It's kind of weird. I don't. Normally, everyone plays a6, and here our approach will be with the castle first, and then queen to b3. Why is that good? Simple, because the knight isn't developed, and for this reason, the castle king side isn't an available move. So after that, queen to e7 or queen to f6 probably will happen, and we will continue playing on the queen side. First, we will attack the bishop, and then we will advance the pawn to b5. And this is very complicated to play for white and black, but I think for you, this will be easier because you already will know the plans. Your opponents know. So here, I think probably everyone will take. I think it's necessary. And after queen takes pawn, the idea is to advance a6 and try to win material. So here, in my opinion, probably the best way of playing that is with knight to f6, ignoring. But I don't know, I've already played with persons that has done that, bishop d7, so everything is playable, but in my opinion, a6 will be always a plan, and the computers enjoy a lot, and probably the most difficult hypothesis is with knight f6. Because after a6, this can continue with bishop d7, and this is completely crazy, this game, because pawn can take, bishop will take, and after rook takes, we are losing by 3 points, but look at our pawn. We can attack first the rook, and then we will take material. So knight takes. This is my study, so I know this is completely crazy, but well, queen check, and after a knight, of course, we can promote a new piece, and this queen cannot give checkmate because of the presence of the knight. And if the queen goes back, this will be a playable position, but the game is completely double-edged, so it's completely broken. So we can continue taking the knight, and looking to this position, okay. Talking about the material, we are losing by 1 point. True, but we have a beautiful pawn on b7. So this is, in my opinion, good for white, even because of the fact that this pawn will fall. Talking about the king security, yes, isn't the best, but black will need to be worried about the b7 pawn. So for this reason, I think this is completely playable for white. So about these lines with the bishop, we've seen several different things. Pawn take, pawn advances, and knight f6. I think we've seen the essential. Now let's go to bishop e7, and we have some amazing lines too against bishop e7. In my opinion, normally the persons that play bishop e7, they normally don't know how to play against the Scottish Gambit. Sorry, my flu. And here we will try to give checkmate in the opening because yes, we are this kind of persons. And the idea is just to play c3. And yes, this is possible, and you can do what we have seen before. With b4, a4, this is possible too. But here, let's assume that the pawn will take. After pawn takes, we don't need to take this pawn because we will threat checkmate. And I've already seen in official games players resigning in this move. And the truth is that this is still a completely playable position for black. But to play this, you need to know the theory. And still, you need to know the theory playing with white, because black has tricks too. So here, the only correct answer is knight to h6. And of course, the bishop will take the knight. And no, this isn't checkmate, because the king can't castle. So it's possible to survive to this position. And okay, now we need to be careful with a specific trick that the black can play. So, for example, if we play bishop to c1, it's possible to lose this game with white, because bishop c1, in my opinion, is a terrible mistake because of knight b4, and if, for example, queen plays to d1, this is a terrible blunder. So, for this reason, of course, we don't want to complicate what is easy. So we will sack the bishop. And what is the idea? The idea is that, of course, if the pawn takes, the bishop takes. And if this pawn advances, we don't need to be worried about. We can just play bishop h6, and the bishop is covering this square, and if pawn takes, rook takes, we are winning by material. So probably everyone will take the bishop. And after that, knight takes. What are the advantages of playing this position? Well, first, the central control. We are winning the center. Second, the advantage on the development, because we have two knights, a bishop, and a queen. Developed and well developed. Third, pieces coordination. Fourth, the security of the king. This king can castle without problems, even the castle queenside. And this king won't be safe. Never. So for this reason, you don't want to exchange the queens. Okay. So after that, one possible continuation is d6, in my opinion, is normal. And after castle kingside, the bishop can play to e6. I think this is the most normal way of continuing that. We can continue with queen, takes, and in my opinion, we will play for attacks on the king side. And we can still play a rook to c, another to d, and try to advance the central pawn because of ideas of attacking the queen on the d file. So, of course, if you evaluate that with the computer will give a slight advantage for white, but according to the databases you're seeing on the bottom of the screen, in chess, on the chess games over the board, white wins 68%, so it's a lot. So this, in my opinion, isn't playable for black. So we've seen the best move. Of course, the worst way of playing that is just, I don't know, king f8, and you're going to lose. And of course, yes, black can possibly play knight a5, but it's ugly. It's ugly because you don't want to play the knights to the side of the board. So I think this is very ugly. Here, I will recommend just to play bishop d3 and play possession. Because, for example, if pawn takes, knight takes, pawn, castle, bishop, pawn takes, we are leading on the development again. And yes, black is winning by 1 point, but we have potential. We are going to play, for example, f4, or even play the bishops from the center, and black will be always defending on this position. I think it is a passive position for black. So we've already seen another position. Let's go to bishop b4. I have a team colleague that plays this a lot. So let's go. So after bishop b4, I have an interesting approach. So I will recommend a kind of transposition to the Nordic attack or Danish attack. I think has this name too. So c3, and after pawn takes castle. I don't know this. I think this is named the London defense. Probably this white approach doesn't have any name. We can, if you want, you can give some suggestion to. We can create this variation, and the thing is that, for example, if pawn takes, bishop takes, and we are controlling the two diagonals. According to the computers, this is completely playable for black, but again, I don't believe. I don't believe because, well, for example, a wrong step and we will take. This is possible, and of course, d6, terrible. Very bad. So this is very complicated. For these reasons, most players will play different stuff. For example, d6, I think, is kind of a normal way of continuing this position. And again, because of the fact that this knight isn't developed, you already know the plan. We want to play on this diagonal. So here, this can continue with queen to defend again. And after that, we will do a small trick. Because, so we are winning on the queen side. Because we have more pieces on this side of the board. So according to the dynamic of the pieces. So because of that, I will suggest bishop to b5. What is the idea? For example, if he plays knight f6, we take. The knight is pinned, so we will win material. It's kind of easy and super basic, but the thing is that this will create problems because black has killed the king on the center, and you are maintaining the initiative. So after, for example, c2, no one will play that. We can take, and we are threatening to win more material. So another idea can be probably to play bishop to a5. Sorry. And here, yeah, we can continue with queen a4, and we will win material. So here doesn't exist any way of survive because bishop takes, and we will win a lot of material. So this is very good for white, and if you play that on the internet, please tell me something because I want to see your game. Okay, so it's very, very nice. Of course, if black plays a different thing like bishop, here you can take, and yes, you have sufficient arguments to play this because the material is even and you have two central pawns and your opponent just has one. So for this reason, this is already better for white. So let's go to our last variation, and the last variation is the most solid one. I like when they play that against me, because I like to play with the initiative, and well, we are talking about d6. And here my suggestion will be not to play the gambit, because black are playing very solid, so we will continue with just knight takes. Why is that? Because normally everyone will play knight f6 and we will break the pawn structure. So after pawn takes, the thing is that, okay, this bishop is bad because right now the bishop is behind the pawns. And we have a great bishop. We can castle in this moment. We can play knight c3. And for example, a possible approach is just to fianchetto, do the fianchetto to the bishop on b2. For example, takes, bishop b2, pawn advances, and yes, this is a complicated. Black has several pawns on the center, but you have potential on the diagonal, so you can create threats, and of course, this pawn on e6 is a problem. So for this reason, I think this is a great way of continuing against d6. I've already seen different approaches on over the board games. For example, I've already seen playing c3, but in my opinion, because of the fact that black has a very solid game, I think you don't want to take so much risks, because on the other variations, yes, you have dynamism, you have potential, you can create a lot of problems, but here is more complicated. So because of this fact, knight taking, in my opinion, is the best approach. So we have been talking about the Scottish Gambit, and we've reached a lot of conclusions. And right now, I'm certain that you're able to play the Scottish Gambit against everyone. So if you win a strong player, or even if you win quickly with, for example, the Perrault Gambit, please tell me something. Put your game on the comments and I will analyze the game with you, because everyone is good for the YouTube algorithm, and you will be giving me a very big help to grow the channel. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget, if you enjoyed, push the like button, and tomorrow at the same hour I will be here to talk with you about chess. Till tomorrow, bye bye.